Good morning. It's good to see all of you online today. I'm Teresa Madsen with the OUUC Tech Team. We're leading worship We're leading worship from several locations today. As the service moves back and forth between us, you'll be able to see whoever is speaking if you put your screen on speaker view rather than gallery view. And you can see us singing together if you go back to gallery view. We'll also be using the chat box throughout the service to post the song lyrics and to share joys and sorrows, or whatever we're calling it now. You can turn the chat off and on by clicking the chat icons. You might want to find that now. We can expect some tech glitches as we continue to do all we can to optimize our connections. One suggestion is that if you're... My children really want to participate today. One suggestion is that if you're having trouble with your reception, your audio reception, you might try turning off your video to see if that helps. We appreciate your grace, as we all remember it's about connection, not perfection. Last, I hope you will find a candle or a chalice, and in a moment we can light them together. Thank you for your grace and adaptability as we all learn together.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Teresa. You and your young ones are always welcome. It's so good to see all of you this morning, and we want to extend a special welcome to Matt Meyer, a musician and worship leader who is joining us from Boston this morning. Thank you so much for being with us today, Matt. Let's sing.
For all of our music, I invite you to sing along at home this morning. We might not be able to hear each other, but we can still sing together and we can still breathe together. The song says, "We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires." We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change that lie from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change that lie from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change that lie from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round attendees fire. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change that lie from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. It's great to see you all singing along at home. Let's continue on in song with Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Let's try that one again. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Open your ears to the song. Open your hearts. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Today will be a joyful day. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Thank you so much, Matt, for sharing your music today. Good morning again, and welcome to the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation online worship service. The OUUC community comes together in the mutual promises and possibilities of our covenant. We commit to live out our mission to be a liberal religious community that opens minds, fills hearts, and transforms lives. We are so glad that you are here today. I'm the Reverend Mary Geer, and it is my honor to serve as the minister for this congregation. Leading worship with me today is Matt Meyer. Matt is a musician and worship leader who has led hundreds of services for UU congregations around the country, and I know Matt as a worship leader for our General Assembly. He has a degree in hand drumming and serves as the Director of Community Life for Sanctuary Boston. Thank you so much, Matt, for being with us. We give thanks for the tech team for providing technical support today. And thanks to Darlene Sarkola, our administrator, for keeping us informed and connected. And we are so grateful for the many hands that makes worship happen this Sunday and every Sunday. We welcome each of you to this celebration of love and wonder and to this congregation. Thank you for your presence this morning. After the service, we invite you to stay online for a virtual coffee chat. This is a chance to gather in a small group to say hello and check in, and we'll offer more information about that at the end of the service. I want to draw your attention to the order of service, which includes the announcements that are on our website, and just a couple things to mention. Today, right after the service and the coffee chat, we'll gather for a question and answer time with me and the board to hear our priorities for the year. We hope you'll join us. You can either stay online or return to the same Zoom link at about 11:20. Later this afternoon is another opportunity to drive through at OUUC. The stewardship team will be there to receive your pledges if you want to drop them off, and will hand out gifts to those who have pledged at any amount. The drive-through is from 3 to 4:30 at OUUC this afternoon. Please plan to drive, bike, bus, or walk by, and don't forget to wear your mask. We hope to see you there. And last, we invite you to join us this Thursday at 7 p.m. for our regular evening of spiritual practice. It's a chance to connect with yourself and with our community. This week will be a time for meditation to calm our minds, bodies, and spirits. You'll find the login information on the OUUC website. There are many opportunities to stay connected to our community, because social distancing doesn't mean social isolation. Please check the website regularly, and if you need any help with the technology or otherwise, please reach out to me or another staff member. Now let us settle our hearts and minds and spirits as we prepare for worship. Welcome, everyone. It is good to be together. This morning and every Sunday morning, we join Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world in lighting a chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition. If you have a chalice or candle and want to join me, we'll light our chalices together with these words from Lindsay Bates. To face the world's shadows, a chalice of light. To face the world's coldness, a chalice of warmth. To face the world's terrors, a chalice of courage. To face the world's turmoils, a chalice of peace. May its glow fill our spirits, our hearts, and our lives. Our opening words this morning are offered by the Reverend Patrick Murphin, titled "The Unity of Knowing and Not Knowing." We believe that many streams join to make a river, that the way to wisdom lies in an open ear and heart, that goodness may be pursued for the sake of goodness and not from fear of punishment, that knowing and not knowing are part of the same, and ambiguity is permissible. Come, let us worship together.
Our opening hymn this morning was written by Annie Zylstra. She wrote it when she was inspired by the words of Martin Prechtel, who spoke of what it was like to survive an earthquake in Guatemala. He spoke of what it was like to see the ground beneath his feet, that which had always been so solid, which had always been so permanent, suddenly rise up in motion, in violence in some cases. He said that the myth of believing in solid ground is a myth believed by those who live on the earth rather than as a part of it. I know in the last few months I've been trying to find some sense of grounding, even as it feels like the ground beneath me is shifting constantly. So if that is true for you, I invite you into the spirit of the song, and I invite you to sing along. There's a low part and then a high part that's call and response. So pick whichever part you like best, or just make up some new part all on your own. I believed in solid ground. until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean all moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean all moves on.
We'll do that low part 2 more times.
In perfect motion, all is change and ever rolling ocean all moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion.
Well, I'd love to share a story with all of you, a story called Miriam and the Tambourine. Now, Miriam was just about to enter 4th grade, and she was thrilled because 4th grade was the year at her school that every student got to learn an instrument and play in the school orchestra. And Miriam loved music, so this was really exciting. Have any of you ever played in the school band or school orchestra? Would you wave your hands a little bit? Looks like a couple of you. So you know the terror and also the thrill of walking into the orchestra room on the first day. Miriam looked around at all of the instruments and she wondered which one she would get to play. There was a giant bass drum, beautiful violins, shiny brass trumpets. She saw her teacher, Miss Berman, there, and she said, "Here I am. What instrument do you need me to play in the orchestra?" Miss Berman looked at her and said, "Miriam, right? I think I've got just the instrument for you. And she disappeared into her office. She came out a moment later with a tambourine. A tambourine, Miriam said. Well, is that even an instrument? Well, of course, Miss Berman said. Every great orchestra needs a great tambourine player, and you are our tambourine player. Well, Miriam took the tambourine, but for the whole rehearsal all day long, she ended up having to play the same rhythm over and over and over. It went like this. It went dot, 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 dot. Can you all try that at home? Dot, 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 dot. And when she came back to school the next day, all day long for the whole rehearsal, it was that same rhythm all over again. It went dot, 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 dot. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the whole rest of the week, it was that same rhythm over and over and over. It went dot, 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 dot. So you might imagine that Miriam wasn't any more excited about the tambourine at the end of the week than she had been at the beginning. So when she went to church with her family that Sunday, she was feeling pretty sad about it. This was pre-COVID times, of course, and she sat down in her Sunday school class, and her teacher, Mahesh, noticed that she was looking down. He asked her about it, and she said, well, I was so excited to learn to play an instrument and to play in the school orchestra, but I ended up with the tambourine, and I just play the same rhythm all week long. It goes dot, 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 dot. The tambourine, Mahesh said. He said, did you know that where my family is from in southern India, we call the tambourine a kanjira? Can you say kanjira? He said, people spend their whole lives learning to master the kanjira. It's a wonderfully beautiful but complicated instrument. And in fact, every sound that you can play on the kanjira, you can sing out with different syllables. And so people sing out the rhythms of the kanjira in what sounds like, well, a kind of a poetry of rhythm. People put all the sounds together to create this kind of poetry, and that's how they teach each other to play. People write whole books of the poetry of the kanjira. Where I come from, the tambourine is an instrument for creating poetry and, well, beauty in the world. Poetry and beauty, Miriam said. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. After church, Miriam was sitting by herself, and a family friend, Anna, came and sat with her. Anna remembered, she said, this was the week that you were going to start 4th grade and learn to play an instrument and play in the school orchestra. Tell me, how's it going? Well, Miriam said, I ended up with the tambourine and I just played the same rhythm all week long. It goes dot, 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 dot. The tambourine, Anna said. She said, did you know that where my family is from in Brazil, we call the tambourine a pandeiro? Can you say pandeiro? She said, people have been playing the pandeiro for generations in Brazil. And in fact, when my ancestors were brought to Brazil as enslaved people, they would play the pandeiro as a way to bring their community together, to sing and dance and take care of each other, even when times were so hard. And they would even use the music of the pandeiros to secretly practice martial arts so they could protect themselves against the people that held them as slaves. Where I come from, the tambourine is an instrument for safety and, well, for community. Safety and community, Miriam said. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. So Miriam was thinking about all of this when she went back to school the next day. She saw her teacher, Ms. Berman, there, and she told her about the kanjira and the pandeiro, about poetry and beauty and safety and community. But she said, I don't know what any of that has to do with me, though, because I'm still playing the same rhythm all week long, and it goes da 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 da. Well, Ms. Berman said, she asked, Miriam, do you know where your name comes from? She said, of course I do. Comes from my parents. Well, right, she said, but do you know who Miriam was? She said, in your family's history, there's an old story of your ancient ancestors, the Israelites, fleeing slavery in Egypt and traveling, making a long and dangerous journey to a land of freedom. And while they were on that journey, they were so happy to be on their way to freedom that they had a wonderful party. A party that was so incredible that, well, it was holy, they described it. And it was a woman named Miriam who got that celebration started by playing her tambourine. She was one of the first musicians in recorded history anywhere on the planet, and women just like Miriam would play in ancient Israel and all over the ancient Middle East for weddings and festivals and celebrations. In your family's history, she said, the tambourine was a way of, celebrating the journey towards freedom and towards love. Freedom and love, Miriam said. Well, that doesn't sound so bad. So Miriam eventually went on to play some of the other instruments in the orchestra. She played a little bit of bass drum and she took some violin lessons and tried out the trumpet for a while. But she always remembered this story of the tambourine. How all around the world and all throughout history, people had taken the simplest of instruments, the most basic tools that they had in their hands, and they found ways to use them to shape their community, to foster beauty and poetry, safety and community, and to celebrate the journey we're all trying to make towards love and freedom. And I think that's a little bit of what we do when we come together on Sunday mornings, in whatever ways we come together. We gather not just to remind each other about the values that are most important to us, but to think together and talk together and maybe even challenge each other, to think of how we can use whatever instruments, whatever tools we might have in our hands to shape the world around us and make this the kind of world that we want to live in together. So thank you for helping me with the story.
Good morning. About 10 years ago, I realized I belong in a community where all beliefs are honored. While I'm Christian, I know people are more similar than different. And I wanted to be in a community where we learn and serve together, and I found it at OUUC. One of the things I love about OUUC is we make stuff happen. When there's a need in the community, we respond. I know I can call people, and it doesn't have to be convenient. It doesn't have to be high profile. It might not even be fun, but I hope it is. And people show up, and we make a difference in our community. Everybody brings their superpower to the table. Speaking of superheroes, let me introduce you to my stewardship team. Steve Tilley, he's a workhorse. Linda Crabtree, I'm awed by the way she continues to learn. Zoe Myers, words matter and Zoe is articulate. Paul Garrett, well, when we can get him to stop talking, he signs up for the big task and gets her done. Tammy Black steps up again and again. Kim Danke and Mark Gray, working with data can be excruciating, and they never ran. Susan Moon and Sam Starr, newcomers that wrote amazing copy and did big work. Barry Zickler and Wendy Endress supported our group on behalf of the Board of Trustees. They attended even more Zooms to help us coordinate and plan successfully. And many more. Martha Guilfoyle, Riley McLaughlin, Rich Callum, Darlene, Sarah, we called and you responded. Thank you so much. I'm proud to be part of OUUC. We do amazing things and we have a great future. Thank you.
Good morning, Olympia UU. My name is James Trujillo and I serve OUUC as the board president. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to thank you for your generosity and care for this vital community that opens minds, fills hearts, and transforms lives. We are a community that has been forged over the generations of this country with a communal spirit of Unitarian intellectualism and compassionate universalism. Our very nature and democratic spirit embodies the most noble aspirations of this republic. While we acknowledge the flaws of colonialism and overconsumption that are still with us today, we aim to correct those mistakes and to carry forward the best of who we are for generations to come. Your Stewardship Drive pledge, at whatever level, is part of the cultural nutrients that will ensure the Unitarian Universalist legacy will be a living and vital part of our community for generations to come. Every pledge, from both members and friends alike, is a vote for calling our human family to bend toward justice. These pledges can be small or big, and each is like a drop of water sustaining our life-balancing messages both now and into the future. So I hope you see your pledge at whatever level as an investment in our liberal values and attending to our healthy forest of ideas that will be part of the Olympia community and these Salish tribal lands for generations to come. So please give. No donation is too small or too big. Finally, please join us for our Stewardship Celebration drive-through event later today at the church from 3 to 4:30 p.m. And confidentially, if you're one of our long-standing community members, please remember to get your pledge in as soon as possible. If not, Sally, our stewardship campaign leader, who's done a fantastic job, may need to give you a call. And you know she's a redhead, and coming from a long line of redheads myself, I would make sure my pledge is in. All joking aside, just want to thank all of you again for your generosity for everyone who has pledged, and I hope everyone has a fantastic Sunday.
Good morning, good people. And thank you, Sally and James, for those inspiring messages. I'm here to give a live update on our campaign progress. I'm happy to report that as of this morning, we have received 112 pledges totaling $228,500, which puts us at 48% of our goal. This is a great place to be at this point in the campaign. Now, I know some of you have the packet sitting on your dining room table and are planning to fill it out. Or maybe you've already filled out the pledge form and you're just looking for a stamp to send it in. Well, the time is now. And better yet, you can come to church this afternoon between 3 o'clock and 4:30. Drop off your pledge form and receive this special gift from the Stewardship Committee. Have you already sent in your pledge? Come by and get your mask. Do you just want to say hello? Come on by. There'll be a mask for you too. And by the way, bring your discarded batteries. We'll be collecting those as well. So I look forward to seeing you this afternoon, rain or shine. Be sure to say hello. I'll be wearing a mask. Please be sure to wear one too.
Thank you to the stewardship team. You've done fantastic work this year. We came together in community this morning, bringing all that is in our lives. In this space, we draw on the strength of our community to listen deeply and hold all that we bring here with us. If you would like to send in something to share, please look for the link on the online worship page on the website, and we'll bring it into the service next week. We have transformed this ritual, which has been called Joys and Sorrows, into a ritual of sharing from the heart. Joys and sorrows is a binary, a this or that, which often doesn't reflect the complexity of or wholeness of our lives, our feelings and experience. So we created a place for that complexity, sharing what brings us joy and sorrow, what brings us delight and worry, and what makes us dance, and what makes us anxious. Let's open our hearts to the complexity of life, ours and others. And in this time of political and other divisions, please recognize that we hold different opinions and be attentive to sharing in a way that bridges the divides rather than increasing them. You'll hear a drum beat as we share today. It brings into our awareness that our individual hearts beat, and together we create the heartbeat of our community. Right now, I invite you to take a breath in and out as we open our hearts to receive the complexity of all that is in our lives and community today. My husband John and I are happy to share the news that we are in the process of buying a house in Olympia. It has been an interesting time to be house hunting, and we are grateful to have found just the right place to call home. This gives new meaning to being your settled minister. We welcome your good wishes as we relocate our household one more time over the next 6 weeks. I invite you to share from your heart by entering in the chat box on your screen. This is a time to share all that you wish, joys and sorrows and whatever else is from your heart. And as we take in what is posted, let us hear the heartbeat of our community and reach out our hearts in love and care to all those who share. I place a stone in the water for all that has been shared from the heart. A stone holding the complexity of our lives, held in the water of community. And we place one more stone in the water for all that we hold in our hearts and that remains unspoken. I invite you now into a time of reflection, meditation, and prayer. Infinite web of life, spirit of love, great mystery that hears our hearts. In this time of division, help us remember the agility of our connection. In this time of anxiety, help us remember the peace of our connection. In this time of weariness, help us remember the strength of our connection. In this time of uncertainty, Help us remember the clarity of our connection. Web of life, web of love, web of community, web of spirit. In gratitude for the web of connection, we pray. Blessed be, and amen. Let's hold just a moment of silence together. Our prayers and meditations deepen our gratitude for what we know as sacred in our lives and in this world. Each Sunday, we express our gratitude by joining together in service to our community and to something greater than ourselves. The offering collected here today does two things. It supports the ongoing work of OUUC, which is also supported by your regular pledges. This offering also supports an organization that serves our community in harmony with our Unitarian Universalist values and principles. This month, our Share the Plate recipient is Cielo, which promotes community, self-sufficiency, and leadership to Latinos in the South Puget Sound. Since 1996, Cielo has been providing hope to immigrants in nearby counties. It empowers people to create better lives for themselves and achieve their dreams. And it offers education for all ages, counseling services, and advocacy for those who have been victims of crime. Cielo has become a community hub where people form strong bonds with other immigrants, staff, and the over 150 volunteers who make the work possible. Please note that you can participate in the offering by making a donation online through the church website or by texting the number that will appear on your screen and in the chat in just a moment. You can also mail a check to OUUC. Our community partners continue to need our financial support. May the offering now be generously given as it is gratefully received.
Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. La libertad es la única bandera. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. Listen, my people, we bring the power. La libertad es la única bandera. Liberty is the only flag. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza. La libertad es la única bandera. Listen, my people, my condor, my ego. No human being can ever gente traemos la fuerza, la libertad es la única bandera. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza, la libertad es la única bandera. Listen, my people, my condor, my eagle, no human being can ever be illegal. Listen, my people, my condor, my eagle, no human being can ever be illegal. Oye, mi gente, traemos la fuerza, la libertad es la única bandera. Listen, my people, my condor, my eagle, no human being can ever be illegal. Listen, my people, my condor, my eagle, no human being can ever be illegal. No human being can ever be illegal. No human being can ever be illegal. No human being can ever be illegal.
Thank you for your generous gifts. Our reading today is titled Invitation to Brave Space by Mickey Scott Bay Jones. Together, we will create brave space because there is no such thing as safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and we all have caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work side by side. This ends our reading.
Our next song by Sorrow Lynch Thomason is a song about brave space, to be sure. A song that, hopefully like our faith communities, names the difficulties of the time and also gives us the courage to move forward anyway. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will wade through the waters when they find their way to me. I will wade through
through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will walk through the fire, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will walk through the fires when they find their way to me. I will walk through the fires, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fires, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains when they find their way to me. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. I start just about every day with a to-do list. Between you and me, it is usually an overly ambitious to-do list, and usually scribbled on a Post-it note in the corner of my desk. It is a rare day that I go to bed at night having crossed everything off said list. And one of the things that I particularly struggle to make time for is writing. It's important to me to make time for writing, and it's something I value. I put it on my list every day, but I struggle to get it done. One of my favorite authors, Anne Lamott, talks about how hard it is, in fact, to just sit down every day and put your butt in the chair and write. She says, "The discouraging voices will hound you. This is all piffle," they will say. And they might be right. What you are doing may just be practice, but that's okay because this is how you're going to get better. Some of the best writing advice I ever got was from a teacher once who told me, for now, don't write. Just take a few minutes and write what you would write if you were going to write. I sometimes feel like in all the years since I got that advice, I haven't written a single thing since, but I have written a lot about what I would write if I did. You might call this the practice of practicing, learning how to practice. The demons of perfectionism stand in the way of writing, just as they stand in the way of creative risk-taking in general, which is unfortunate because creating a life for yourself that doesn't yet exist requires some creative risk-taking. Certainly in uncertain and anxious times such as these, just waking up every day and being your best self requires setting aside some of the voices that may hound you. And particularly these days, when we're facing the crises of climate chaos and white supremacy, the anxiety of an election, well, just imagining a world of justice and equity and compassion, it can mean having to set aside those voices that show up and tell you your efforts are just piffle. When the demons of perfectionism show up for me like this, I try to practice the practicing of showing up for myself and for others. One of the requirements for all students at Berklee College of Music in Boston, where I attended college years ago, is 4 semesters of ear training, which is learning how to sight sing notes on a page and sing out the song just by reading the paper, or how to write down a song and transcribe it to paper just by listening. Now, when I first started school, I knew that there certainly were people who were capable of this kind of magic, but it all seemed like some kind of Harry Potter fictional nonsense to me. Like, you may as well ask me to sit at my desk and make a feather float in the air using my conductor's baton. Now,
On the first day of class, I remember a sort of silent nervousness among the students. It was the first day of class, the first day of college, and here we were being asked to begin to do the impossible. And all of us were silent except one student who was actually quite loud in his nervousness. This one student interrupted the teacher in the very first few minutes of the very first class to share that he was worried the class would be too advanced for him. He wanted to make it clear that he knew, in fact, not a single thing about ear training. The teacher kindly paused his introductions to respond, saying that we'd all been placed in the appropriate classes. He was sure we'd taken entrance exams and everything. The teacher tried to continue, but was interrupted again. Well, the man said, "Is this the very lowest class? Because I need to be in the very lowest class." At this point, the teacher looked around the room a little sheepishly, obviously not wanting to answer that yes, we were in fact a class of the very lowest students. Well, it is ear training 101, he said. So it is just about the lowest. I guess there is a class for people that have previously failed the 101, but you all are just about the lowest. Now, some of the other students giggled a little bit at this man's anxieties. I was kind of glad to hear, though, that someone was questioning the absurd notion that sight singing could even be taught. I don't know what happened next for that student, but he never came back to our class. Not because anything we did on that first day was in fact too hard for him, I'm sure, but because he lacked a belief that improvement was even possible. I kept going, thinking that if other students had done this before, it must be possible somehow, and I made a commitment to at least practice the material. And while I never mastered ear training, I made it through my 4 semesters. I've always remembered this other student, though, who gave up before he'd started. It's not just that he didn't try and become a master at ear training, it's that he didn't even try the practicing of it, which always struck me as the real loss. When the discouraging voices hound me, I sometimes think of him, and I remind myself that maybe for now, the work in front of me is just practice. But practice is how I'm going to get better. These last months, as well as the coming weeks leading up to the election, are a time of anxiety and uncertainty, to be sure. They've been a time of uprisings all across our country, calling for real change. Systemic change, calling on those in power, which in some ways is all of us, to play a different role. Particularly for white folks, this has been a time to practice some new skills and learn some new roles to play in our communities. A time for listening in deeper ways we haven't always done so well before. A time for having some hard conversations we haven't yet practiced enough. Fellow white folks, when you hear people of color making demands, now is the time to practice amplifying those demands by repeating them in calls to your representatives and your colleagues and your family. If you've inherited wealth or accumulated wealth that was accumulated in a time of systematic segregation in this country, which is true of all wealth in this country, now is a time to practice giving it away. If your muscle memory has been to call the police when something goes wrong, today is the day to begin practicing something different, learning new skills and creating new systems for community safety and accountability. I won't all of a sudden do all of these things, but I will practice the doing of them. Musicians know as well as anyone that muscle memory is very real. That consistent practicing changes the very structure of our brains, rewiring our circuitry, forging new connections and new possibilities. No one is born a musician. Musicians are just the ones that learned how to practice. Even songbirds need elder birds to sing to them in order to learn the songs. Practice doesn't make music perfect, but it makes music possible. And so let us practice the practicing, showing up for ourselves and others to build a new world of justice and equity and compassion. Practice won't make the world perfect, but it makes a better world possible. Someday, perhaps someday, I want to be a true expert in justice and compassion, even when anxiety and uncertainty move in the air like a storm. Someday I want to be well practiced at creating brave space, even when there's no such thing as safe space. Someday I want to be masterful at amplifying the voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. Someday I want to be part of transforming our so-called justice system that has hurt so many so deeply. These are daunting tasks, to be sure. And on most days, learning to transcribe a symphony can seem more manageable. But that's okay, because for now, I don't have to do all of those things. I just need to practice doing what I would do if I were doing them. And so, beloveds, don't promise to be your best self today. Just be the person you would be if you were practicing being your best self. Don't attempt to rebuild a new world in the image of love this week. Just practice doing what you would do if you had committed to such things. You have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We all have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. And so let us start together, let us grow together, and let us practice together side by side. Our closing song is Let the Life I Lead Speak for Me. I originally heard that this was a traditional Irish folk tune, but it seems like it may have been written by a 70s R&B group called the Consolers. Either way, I invite you to sing along at home as we continue to breathe together. Now is a great time to try out those harmonies you might not have been so bold enough to try if other folks could hear you. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the friends I have speak for me. Let the work I do, let the work I do speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the work I do speak for me. Let the love I share, let the love I share speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the love I share speak for me. Let the songs I sing, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the life I lead, let the life I lead speak for me.
the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me.
Will you join me as we extinguish our chalices with these words inspired by Laura Horton Ludwig? Fire and water, ancient opposites, sun and ocean, the cradle of life. Dancing flame and dancing river, we have invoked them together today. May we carry their power into the world, and may we dance.
Let's join in singing our unison benediction. How bountiful the blessings that surround us. We come together grateful to be one. As we go forth and greet the days unwinding, the circle grows as pebbles thrown to pond. And know that Spirit guides us on our pathways, abiding in our hearts the bond of love.